All right, thank you so much. I think now we can open and begin our board meeting for 3/16 of 23. And I do have to read the finding of necessity. So at this point, the
with the physical presence of a quorum, so.
I don't have to read?
No.
Very good, okay. All right, so again, good afternoon and welcome. The March 16, 2023 meeting of Tennessee State University Board of Trustees is now called to order. I'd like to ask for the visitors to please stand in form of, also to have our cabinet members and deans stand. Okay, and if we have anyone here at all from THEC, okay, well, thank you. Dean Stevenson, is he here? He is not. There he is, I see him. Dean Stevenson, would you come forward, please, and give us an invocation?
Let us bow. God, we thank you for your love and your kindness. We thank you for the opportunity to serve students. We thank you for the leadership of this board. We ask your continued blessings and your direction. In your name we pray. Amen.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. As you will note in your board materials for today's board meeting, we have several items on the agenda today. We look forward to addressing several significant matters of importance to this board and the institution's evolution and success. The next item listed on your agenda is the roll call declaration of a quorum. At this time, would you please call the roll, Secretary Pendleton?
Trustee Cole,
Yes.
Trustee Walker. Trustee Walker.
Yes. Yes.
Trustee Martin.
Yes. Yes.
Trustee Lewis.
Yes.
Trustee Andre Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Bill Johnson.
Present.
Trustee Wimberly.
Present.
Trustee Pinnock.
Present.
We have the quorum.
Okay.
Trustee Corbeil's here. Trustee
Corbill.
Corbeil is also
Trustee
here.
Trustee McKenzie is also here.
Very good, thank you. Board members, if you cannot hear or speak to other board members, please state so now. For each board member participating electronically, please identify any individuals who are present in the location from which you are participating. The first action on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the November 17, 2022 board meeting. You have in your March 16, 2023 board materials the minutes for the November 17, 2022 board meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes on the November 17, 2022 board meeting?
Second.
Okay. Well, let me go back. I move to approve the minutes for the November 17, 2022 board meeting.
Second.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the motion to approve the minutes of the November 17, 2022 board meeting as contained in the board materials for the March 16, 2023 board meeting. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Cole.
Aye.
Trustee Walker.
Aye.
Trustee McKenzie.
Aye.
Trustee Andre Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Bill Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Corbill.
Aye.
Trustee Pinnock.
Aye.
Moves.
Okay, the motion is approved. The next action item on the agenda is approval of the board resolution in response to the Comptroller's report on TSU's operations. You all have a copy of the Comptroller's report. We had a very robust discussion about the substance of the Comptroller's report as relates to the resolution that was being prepared, and that was held in the Audit Committee meeting. I also testified at the Joint Government Operations Subcommittee hearing on February 27, 2023, at which time I addressed the report and expressed that the board takes seriously the report's contents, including the conclusions and policy considerations contained in the report. You have in your March 16, 2023 board materials the board resolution. We went over in detail the language and contents of the resolution in the board's executive committee meeting earlier today. The resolution reflects the board's commitment to address and correct the issues and conclusions in response to many of the policy considerations contained in the Comptroller's report. The board resolution details the board's activities and directives to the TSU management to improve TSU's operational effectiveness, ensure greater accountability, and elevate the board's oversight of related activities. The resolution will be an action, implementation, and monitoring tool for the board and the university to address and correct operational and fiscal practices and policies and elevate the amount of information shared with the board in key operational areas. While we engaged in a substantive discussion of the resolution in today's audit committee meeting, is there any further discussion or comments associated with the Comptroller's report or the resolution on which we are about to vote? Okay, hearing none. I just want to say that I think that the information that we discussed in that audit committee meeting underscores the fact that we take the Comptroller's report very seriously, and we're taking the steps to address the contents of that report. Is there a motion to approve the board resolution in response to the Comptroller's report on TSU's operations as reflected and contained in the board material for the March 16, 2023 board meeting?
So moved.
Remember, we had a revised, so it's as amended or as revised, the board resolution.
But the board never got it.
He got, that's what you got. I just gave it to you.
No, I know.
No, so,
Okay, I'm not gonna, okay. All right, that's fine. All right,
So
so let me
it's-
go back and say that the resolution that we approved in committee was revised as opposed to what we had originally received in the mail for the report. Okay.
yes.
So let me say that, is there a motion to approve the revised board resolution in response to the Comptroller's report on TSU's operations as reflected and contained in the board material for the March 16, 2023 board meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the motion to approve the revised board resolution in response to the Comptroller's report on TSU's operations as contained in the board material for the March 16, 2023 board meeting. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Cole.
Aye.
Trustee Walker.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Pinnick.
Aye.
Trustee Kerbill.
Aye.
Trustee Andre Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Bill Johnson.
Aye.
Excuse me.
So
And Trustee
the-
McKenzie, are you still on?
Aye, yes.
Okay. The motion is approved. The next item on the agenda is the audit committee report. As the audit committee chair, I will report the actions and other items from today's audit committee meeting. The audit committee met today to act on one item, discuss or receive reports on 3 items, and go into executive session to discuss matters deemed confidential under state law. The audit committee voted to recommend to the full board the approval of the November 17, 2022 audit committee meeting minutes. In addition, the audit committee engaged in a substantive discussion of the Comptroller's report on TSU operations, as well as an in-depth discussion of the board resolution in response to the Comptroller's report. The audit committee also received a report on the university's risk assessment process. As I stated, the audit committee voted to recommend to the full board the approval of the minutes of the November 17, 2022 audit committee meeting. You have in your March 16, 2023 board material the minutes for the November 17, 2022 audit committee meeting. On behalf of the audit committee, I move to approve the minutes of the November 17, 2022 audit committee meeting as contained in the board material for the March 16, 2023 board meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the motion to approve the minutes of the November 17, 2022 audit committee meeting as contained in the board materials for the March 16, 2023 board meeting. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Cole.
Aye.
Trustee Walker.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee McKenzie.
Aye.
Trustee Pinnick.
Aye.
Trustee Kerbill.
Aye.
Trustee Andre Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Bill Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Nine ayes.
Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The mo-
Thank you.
Yes, the motion is approved. The next item on the agenda is the Finance and Budget Committee report. The chair recognizes the Finance and Budget Committee Chair as being Trustee Lewis, but due to his being in another city, Trustee Corbell conducted that report, and I would ask for him to present it.
Thanks, Chair Cole. The Finance and Budget Committee met today to act on 4 items and receive reports on an additional 5 items. The committee voted to recommend to the full board the approval of the November 17th, 2023 22 Finance and Budget Committee minutes and the approval of the FY 2024 compensation plan increase, approval of the FY 2024 housing fee increase, and finally, the approval of the fiscal year 2024 scholarship plan. Additionally, President Glover and her team provided reports on the fiscal year 2023 institutional budgets, housing special committee report, discussion of use of plant funds, Finance and Budget Committee report, and enrollment, recruitment, retention update. As I just stated, the committee voted to recommend to the full board the approval of the minutes of November 17th, 2022, the Finance and Budget Committee meeting. On behalf of the committee, I move that we approve the minutes of this meeting.
Is there a second? Second. Oh, well, I'm lost. Where am I? Right here. Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the motion to approve the minutes of the November 17th, 2022 Finance and Budget Committee meeting as contained in the board material for March 16th, 2023 board meeting. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Cole?
Aye.
Trustee Martin?
Aye.
Trustee Corbell?
Aye.
Trustee Andre Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Bill Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee McKenzie?
Aye.
Trustee Pinnick?
Aye.
Trustee Walker?
Okay,
Aye.
the motion is approved. The finance and, I'm sorry, but Trustee Corbell, continue, please.
Yes, thank you. Our committee also voted on to recommend the board full approval for the compensation plan increase. You have in your packets the material that's related to this agenda item. On behalf of the Finance and Budget Committee, I move to approve the FY 2024 compensation plan increase.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just like to point out and thank the board and the president on behalf of the faculty and staff for the 5.5% salary increase. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And the 3% performance thing.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson, for that comment. Okay. Hearing no additional comments, the question is on the motion to approve the FY 2024 compensation plan increase. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Cole?
Aye.
Trustee Martin?
Aye.
Trustee Corbell?
Aye.
Trustee Andre Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Bill Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee McKenzie?
Aye.
Trustee Pinnick?
Aye.
Trustee Walker?
Aye.
The motion is approved. Trustee
Thank you, Chair
Corbell?
Cole. Yes, the Finance and Budget Committee also voted to recommend to the full board the approval of the FY 2024 housing fee increase. You have those materials in your packet. I move to approve the FY 2024 housing fee increase on behalf of the Finance and Budget Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the question on the motion to approve the FY 2024 housing fee increase. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Cole?
Aye.
Trustee Martin?
Aye.
Trustee Corbell?
Aye.
Trustee Andre Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Bill Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee McKenzie?
Aye.
Trustee Pinnick?
Aye.
Trustee Walker?
Aye.
Okay, the motion is approved.
Okay, good. Finally, the Finance and Budget Committee voted to recommend to the full board the approval of an amended FY 2024 scholarship plan. During the meeting, we actually approved $10.5 million for new funds for scholarships, include both academic, athletic, and band scholarships. The amended motion I'm going to make now is that we want to make sure that and assure that we have a comprehensive view of all of our scholarships as part of the scholarship plan. There's an additional $11 million in recurring scholarships that I want to amend this motion for total approval for the scholarship plan of $21.5 million.
Is there a
I'd
second?
I'd like to make a motion
sorry.
that we approve the amended plan as stated.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the motion to approve the amended FY24 scholarship plan. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Cole.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Kerbill.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson, Andre Johnson. Trustee Bill Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee McKenzie.
Aye.
Trustee Pinnick.
Aye.
Trustee Walker.
Aye.
None ayes.
Okay, the motion is approved.
Chair Cole, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Corbell, for presenting that report for us, and to the other members of the Budget and Finance Committee for your dedicated service to this committee. The next item on the agenda is the Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee report. The chair recognizes the Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee Chair, Trustee Martin.
Thank you, Chair Cole. The Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee met today to consider and vote on 2 agenda items and to receive reports on 3 other agenda items. The Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee voted to recommend to the full board the approval of the November 17, 2022 Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee meeting minutes and the approval of an academic program modification to change the credit hour requirements for the BS in Biology program. The Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee also received reports on SACS COC review matters, academic affairs, and student affairs. As I stated earlier, the Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee voted to recommend to the full board the approval of the minutes of November 17th, 2022 Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee meeting as contained in your board materials for the March 16th, 2023 board meeting. On behalf of the Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee, I move to approve the November 17th, 2022 Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee meeting as contained in board materials for the March 16th, 2023 board meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the motion to approve the minutes of the November 17, 2022 Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee meeting. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Cole.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Kerbill.
Aye.
Trustee Andre Johnson. Trustee Bill Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis. Trustee Lewis. Trustee McKenzie.
This is Richard Lewis.
Trustee McKenzie.
Aye.
Trustee Pinnick.
Aye.
Trustee Walker.
Aye.
The motion is approved.
Thank you. The Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee also voted to recommend to the full board the approval of an academic program modification, a change in credit hours for the BS in Biology program. On behalf of the Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee, I move to approve an academic program modification, the change in credit hours for the BS in Biology program as contained in board materials for the March 16th, 2023 board meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the motion to approve the academic program modification, a change in credit hours in the BS in Biology program as contained in the board materials for the March 16, 2023 board meeting. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Cole.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Corbill.
Richard Lewis, I'm back.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Corbeil.
Trustee Andre Johnson. Trustee Bill Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee McKenzie.
Aye.
Trustee Pinnick.
Aye.
Trustee Walker.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Okay. The motion is approved.
Thank you, Chair Cole. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Martin and other members of the Academic Affairs Committee and Student Affairs Committee for the great work that you have done on behalf of the board. I think I should make a statement very quickly. I do apologize for our late start of the trustees' board meeting, but we had several items in the committee that required a great deal of discussion, which ran us late through to the board meeting time. So I do apologize and appreciate those that you were waiting. Appreciate your dedication to the board. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Executive Committee report. As the chair of the board and the Executive Committee, I will report the action and information items from today's Executive Committee meeting. The Executive Committee met today to discuss and vote on one item and hear reports of 4. The Executive Committee voted to recommend to the full board the approval of November 17, 2022 Executive Committee meeting minutes. The Executive Committee also heard a report on the President's annual performance evaluation process, a discussion of Association of Governing Board review report, a discussion of the board self-assessment process and board retreat, and a report from Secretary Pendleton. As I stated, the Executive Committee voted to recommend to the full board the approval of the minutes of the November 17, 2022 Executive Committee meeting. On behalf of the Executive Committee, I move to approve the minutes of the November 17, 2022 Executive Committee meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the motion to approve the minutes of the November 17, 2022 Executive Committee meeting as contained in the board materials for the March 16, 2023 board meeting. Secretary Pendleton, please call the roll.
Trustee Cole.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Corbill.
Aye.
Trustee Andre Johnson. Trustee Bill Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee McKenzie.
Aye.
Trustee Pinnick.
Aye.
Trustee Walker.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Okay, the motion is approved. The next item on the agenda is a report on the university housing and other facilities. The chair recognizes President Glover, who will provide information regarding this agenda item. Board Special Housing Committee Chair Pinnock is also recognized to provide any additional comments.
Well, good afternoon. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about housing, given the amount of attention that it's received. And then also give the other trustees that are on the committee an opportunity to speak as well. That would be Trustee Andre Johnson and Trustee Owen McKenzie. First, TSU is not alone in dealing with student housing issues. We have talked to other universities across the country, and many are dealing with the same thing. Students not able to afford the housing, not able to find housing, and having to make alternative plans, even leaving school because housing was not available. So we are grappling with some of those very same issues. One of our challenges is that we are in a high demand market where rents are skyrocketing, where we have folks that are moving out of Nashville, moving to other cities to find more affordable housing. So we're not alone. We've gotten a lot of attention, and that's, some of that's fair. But we want to speak to some of the things that we have been considering as a housing committee. First and foremost, TSU is a land-grant college, land-grant university, And as such, we have a societal component to our mission, which means that we not only do we provide education in the main, but we also look to solve problems that are in the communities where we live. We are in maybe 55 counties around the state, where we provide research, and we have staff that's working on various projects. So it is part of our DNA to involve the community in solving some of our issues. To that regard, we have talked, in addition to colleges and universities across the country, we have also spoken with community organizations in town, municipal agencies in town, and others in an effort to understand not just the student housing challenges we face, but to understand better understand the housing issues that people face in Nashville. So we think that there is an opportunity, as we move to solve our own student housing challenges, to work with those agencies in the community to solve some of Nashville's affordable housing challenges as well. And affordable housing, from a student perspective, I want to make this one point, that HUD released a report back in, I think it was 2015, that addressed the student housing crisis in public four-year institutions. And at the time that HUD released that report, housing as a component of the cost of attendance was right around 51%. So students were really paying more for housing than they were for the main thing that they were going to college for, and that's to receive an education. So as we look out as a university to solve housing, we have to keep in mind that affordable housing is also front and center of what we need to do. In that regard, we are looking at bringing over the next 5 to 10 years, beginning in this year, 10,000 beds online. That's pretty aggressive. Any university or any business that's not growing is dying, and that is not our intent. To better manage housing, we do have to consider the number of beds we have as we are recruiting and going forward. So there's a balance of supply and demand that we have to consider. But we also acknowledge that what we're talking about is the TSU today, not necessarily the TSU of tomorrow. And so we want to say as a committee that by thinking in broader, larger terms, that we can help us think about the TSU of tomorrow by preparing for the students of tomorrow. So with that, I am going to ask Trustee McKenzie, Trustee Johnson, if they'd like to say a few things.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Thank you, Trustee Pinnick. I think that one of the important things that we've learned through this initial exercise was that it's very important to understand that most universities today are exploring alternative funding and partnership type efforts to increase their housing. And many of those are done through public-private partnerships that involve private developers, private funds, in association and partnership with universities. We've seen that happening all over the countries, and with Trustee McKenzie's help and some of the other people that we've brought on board to ask questions and do research on we think that that will be the most sustainable way for us to grow in the future. We all know that we have limited space on campus. We also have limited funds available to build new housing. So we believe that these type of partnerships will help us to achieve those lofty goals that Trustee Pinnick just set out. Trustee McKenzie, go ahead.
Yes, in support of what you just articulated, we have been offered a number of potential partnerships for public-private partnerships to help create additional student housing and affordable housing on land that is adjacent to the university, as well as land that is owned by TSU in our downtown, near our downtown campus or on our downtown campus. So that is as much as I have to say about it. We have specific offers on the table, which, needless to say, will have to be RFP'd in the event the event the board decides to move forward with any offer. I've secured some sample RFPs that would have to be submitted to the authorities in question to secure a 99-year lease to build out any of these initiatives. In addition to that, I've recommended to the Housing Committee that before we do anything, particularly on our downtown campus where there's considerable monetization opportunity for us, that we have the property appraised. It is important for us to know what we have before we begin negotiating with anybody with regards to what our revenue stream is likely to be on a 99-year lease or cash up front. Those are my remarks at this point. So, in conclusion, we have offers on the table. There are many developers that are likely to want to come to the table to provide a partnership on a PPP basis.
Housing Chair Pinnock, if I could just emphasize, I know you have mentioned, as well as the other committee members, about the process, so that we have to go through and make sure that we're going through the SBC and the appropriate authorities as it relates to these types of transactions, and in addition to the ultimate board approval.
Yes. Thank you, Trustee Johnson and Trustee McKenzie. Chair, that ends my report, our report.
Well, I'd like to say I did have the opportunity to attend the committee report. It was very enlightening. And yes, to make sure that we are on record with that, we are aware that there are procedures that we have to go through before certain things can be moved. But it's just so exciting, the number of things that are out there. And as it relates to how we can get approval, I agree with Trustee McKenzie that, we need to know what we have is worth before we negotiate. So thank you, and Secretary Pillen, you'll help us make sure we stay in line with those requirements that we have to meet. But committee's done an excellent job. I ask you to please continue. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the report on the Association of Governing Boards of the Universities and Colleges Governing Review Report. As chair, I'll make some very brief comments on the report. We were glad to see, and we've mentioned before at the meeting we had with the legislative body, but we were glad to see that Ms. Cartwright reported that the board was operating effectively. What the board decided in an earlier meeting today is that we will invite Ms. Cartwright to attend our June meeting/retreat as a consultant, whereby we will continue our evaluation of the board itself, our self-evaluation, as well as we will look into those new things that we will need to do to move the board onward and upward to more and better things. Even though she did conclude, and we appreciate that we are effective, we want to be even more effective than we are. I want to thank each board member for your cooperation in working with Ms. Cartwright as she put the information together. This is a very valuable report and will be very instrumental in our continued success. The next item on the agenda is the President's report. The chair recognizes President Glover, who will provide a report on this agenda item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to talk about where we are in relationship to things we're doing based on the Comptroller's report and the other areas that we deem significant for TSU. So as president, I took a deep dive into a review of the procedures and the policies and activities that's going on now, governing our operations and functions in the core areas of that housing, enrollment, scholarships, financial management, how we communicate, some academic enhancements, then facilities and infrastructure. So the purpose of the review was to obtain information on the procedures that are working well and those procedures that need some additional improvements. This is the personal review that I performed. It was so I could really better guide the team members as they prepared and we implemented a corrective action plan. So this was done on March 12th. It was completed on March 12th after about 6 to 8 weeks. So here's some of the challenges we face. TSU's received a lot of attention regarding some operational issues. Our action plan takes these concerns head on and want to implement the action. So the TSU is strong financially. The good news is TSU is doing well financially. The bad news is there's a perception that TSU is not doing well financially. So and we own that perception, but we will reverse that. So TSU is strong financially. My first priority was to inform the TSU constituents that we are strong financially. We are on solid financial footing with an endowment of $96 million. That's more than double. With reserves of $52.7 million. That's close to the highest ever. With assets of $401 million. That's the highest ever we've had assets, which is a good balance sheet. With a CFI of 3.42, higher than the industry average of 3.0. So, and then we had the significant increase in enrollment that brought in some additional unanticipated revenues of $17 million. This is our best financial position ever that we've ever been in as a university, and we just continue to eliminate any contrary perceptions pertaining to our finances, that we are strong financially. So a good student profile, a strong student profile, it's been elevated. The most recent interim freshman class had an average GPA of 3.999, which we say 3.4. This was for 2.8 when about 5 to 6 years ago. So we continue to elevate our student profile. Now I'm going to go to the action plan. So as president, my first step in the review was to send out a communication to the students and the parents and shareholders to address any concerns they may have expressed. And then secondly, I mentioned I took a deep dive into look into each of these areas that were identified in the Comptroller's report as well as overall operations to determine what were our strengths, what were our weaknesses, what areas of improvement, almost like a SWOT analysis. And then we formed some committees to look into co-operations. And I want to say that one thing we did say, we have to do some clearer communication because we believe that some of the definitions and terms that were used in our conversations with others and with the Comptroller's report, I think it would have been a different report. For example, defining freshman students, first-year students. First-year student, we would just say the first-time college students instead of students who have been here for a period of time and you still consider a freshman. So just some clarities that we're looking into. We took a deep dive into that. So as part of our initial review, I established several committees to look at our key operating areas. Some of them, were highlighted in the Comptroller's report. So we gave a charge to the chair of each committee to review the functions in the core area of operations. Remember, I only did the surface areas, to review the committee members the opportunity to look at it in detail and go in depth and find out how you're going to address the concerns that are identified and how we're going to offer some solutions and other concerns you may come up with. So even though many of the items have been corrected, nonetheless, my direction was to conduct this in-depth review of our policies and our procedures, our practices, to improve where we are now, and so we can provide the best academic experience for our students. And then we want to make sure that we're always good stewards of the funding that we receive from the individual and corporate donors, from the TSU alumni family, then the taxpayer dollars. We're to be good stewards of all funds we receive. So we communicate this charge to the committees. So now it was focused on the assigned operational areas that we talked about. We want to propose some enhancements just to improve the overall operations. Again, the other concerns that were identified as well as those in the Comptroller's report. And I want to guide their analysis by what TSU can do better so we can provide this best academic experience, and we're good stewards of the money. Now, here's what the committee assignments I mentioned earlier, but we drafted these committees to examine operations and function in the following areas: housing, enrollment and scholarships, financial management, internal and external communication, academic enhancements, and facilities and infrastructure. Now, here's the timeline. Committees were asked to report back to the president with their list of findings and recommendations by April 15th. We ask to submit a draft of the proposed policies and procedures and practices based on a review and the approval of the recommendations. That's due by May 15th. And then they have the final reports to me to submit to the board by June 1 for our next June board meeting.
Okay, just one, can we back up for a minute, please? I'm sorry.
Okay?
As I read this, it said the committees will report back to the president with their list of findings and recommendations by April 15th.
Yes.
I really think that should be earlier to allow for a great amount of time to work on it, to get everything done. I'm not sure why they can't be done March 31.
All right, sure.
I don't guess I'm asking. I
No.
think we should make that report due March 31.
All right, so I'll revise that, so the committee will make the report. So the committees will have to meet very quickly, get to work, and so I think every committee has met. And I think you were chair of scholarships, even scholarships didn't meet formally, but you met with the individuals on the committee. So every committee has met now. And so, yes, we'll make that adjustment, Madam Chair, by March 31. We'll do the first report back with their list of findings and recommendations. All right. So housing, I want to go through housing anymore because we covered housing in your report, Trustee Pinnock. And what causes challenge, you've covered that. Next. I think the plans we covered in the morning session, we want to continue with the 2 hotels for the fall, but we're going to start with the number of beds we already have, 3922, and then we'll go from there. We may need, our projections show that we'll need 2 hotels, but there's no guarantee that we'll get 2 hotels approved. So we know that we have 3,922 beds. That's what we're going to work with, and plus the House of God. So we're going to start with those and see where we get, and then we see what we need to go back to ask the SBC for. Now, so let's go to the Housing Committee. Here's some of the considerations as they move through the action plan. We know that we have more students and we have available beds for student housing. And we may have to put some students at the hotels and make sure we have the right condition of the existing hotel facilities. Then there'll be some reports we're going to submit. Last fall, we submitted a report every day to the State Building Commission. And so this time we know that we're putting together reports for the board. As a board, trustees are having much greater participation in the housing concerns. We've had a housing committee that just reported. Then we're going to have an update on the housing plan. Just ensure that all the management positions in housing are filled. And then identify more opportunities that we just heard, both on campus and off campus. And then these are some of these, they're going to come up with the concerns for every committee, but these are some considerations that we know we're going to come up with. Then there are other issues and concerns. Then the committee members, Trustee Van Pinnock as chair, this is Frank Stevenson. You can see we just got the list of all the committee members that will work with Trustee Pinnock, and he's already met with them, so they're off to a start. So the next area, we're enrollment in scholarships. And so some of the considerations, limiting enrollment of first-year students to 2,600 students, alignment of enrollment to housing, then communicate better housing with the students, the scholarship documentation, and the scholarship budgeting process. The Comptroller's report pointed out that the documentation for the scholarship wasn't up to par, and some of the budgeting processes that needed some improvement. So we're going to work through those issues and concerns, and any other issues and concerns that come up. So here are the scholarship members. Trustee Deborah Cole is chair of that committee, and then the other scholarship committee members. So we have 2, you can see the members of the board of trustees are taking very active roles in these committees, along with the TSU management and others in the TSU community. Now the financial management committee, some considerations for that committee, the audit findings. So we're going to make sure that those findings, we see they've been corrected, but we're just going to look at the audit findings. How could that be improved? Bank reconciliation, make sure that's at the highest level. The financial statement as a whole, and any other issues that may come up from this financial management committee in an action plan, operation similar to a strategic plan, so that we look at what considerations are there. Then there are some others that may come up. If they do, we'll do that SWOT analysis and go from there. And the Financial Management Committee members, chaired by Doug Allen, then you can see the others who are on that committee. Then communication, which has become so key. Here's some considerations. We have more timely communication with students and parents. and especially in areas relating to scholarships and housing and financial aid. We're going to hire the associate vice president for customer relations, or assistant vice president for customer relations. We discussed that in one of the committee meetings this morning, and they are pretty much ready. Well, all the positions as a whole, we didn't specify that one, but that committee is ready, it's gone. It's been working extremely hard. That person should be on board pretty soon. And our messaging to the students and to the public, we're working hard on that with our committee members to make sure that the messaging is there. We believe that the proper communication, I gave one example earlier, would really eliminate some of the areas of interest and concern that we encountered. So these committee members are Kelly Sharp, who's the chair, who's AVP of Public Relations, and you have quite a few others on that committee. And you see we have some students who are going to work with us on several of the committees too. And then academic enhancements. I just want to make sure that several things we just started with, but they're going to do the considerations. They're going to go through other considerations, but just make sure that we have the qualified professors and the workloads and the budgets and so any other items that's going to enhance the academics of our university so we can improve our overall student experience. The last committee, here are the committee members chaired by our provost, Dr. Robin Melton. And then the last one is Facilities and Infrastructure Committee. Just want to perform all the necessary work that's needed on the facilities and the infrastructure. We're going to work with JLL, our professional consultant, to plan for the $250 million project, determine the buildings that need immediate maintenance. We've been doing that, but there are other areas of concern that we need to take a look at. And so that's what we're asking this committee to take a deeper dive and to look into that committee, those items. And this committee is chaired by Dr. Curtis Johnson, who is Chief of Staff and AVP for Administration. So that's where we are. That's what we plan on doing. We're working through the committees. They've all had their first meeting, and we hit the ground running because the first report is due by March 31, so there's no time to waste. So that is the report this time. So I thank you all very much. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board.
Oh, thank you, Madam President, for that very detailed report. And I will just ask one thing. I would ask if you would please involve a member from the Housing Committee on the Infrastructure Committee. Please, if you'll make that adjustment. There's a lot of work on that you have put forth for not only your staff, but also for the board. But remember that we're all working toward one goal, and that's a better Tennessee State University meaning for betterment for our students. Okay, at this point in time.
So I'm sorry, I want to ask a question. You want just the chair of housing or any member from housing?
You want a recommendation?
Yes, from the chair. Give me a recommendation, sir.
Trustee Andre Johnson.
Oh, okay.
Okay, very good. Okay. Hey, you were voluntold. That's all I can say, okay? All right. So anyway, thank you, Pen. I didn't forget, okay. All right, let me say, and then we have a fantastic attorney here, and he just brought to my attention that I have referenced the revised board resolution on the next item on the agenda is the chair's report. And our able attorney reminded me that I have referenced the Board of Resolution on several comments, but that the audience is not aware of exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to very briefly summarize the board resolution. Okay, well, we have time to do that. All right, so the board resolution statement: as the governing board for Tennessee State University, the Tennessee State University Board of Trustees is charged with the fiduciary and governance duty to ensure the TSU operates in fiscally and operationally responsible manner. The TSU Board of Trustees takes seriously the Comptroller's February 2023 report, including the report's conclusions and policy considerations. The TSU Board of Trustees hereby resolves to take and direct the following actions to address and correct the issues. Conclusions and policy considerations reflected in the Comptroller's February 2023 report. Number one, the TSU Board of Trustees is committed to actively engaging in an enhanced oversight of TSU's operational and fiscal practices, including working more closely with TSU management in operational and fiscal areas. 2, the TSU Board of Trustees Executive Committee will examine the board's current committee structure to ensure the appropriate number and focus of its committees and provide recommendations to the full board if warranted. 3, to further strengthen the board's overall effectiveness, the board will continue to work with the Association of Governing Boards of Universities and Colleges, including with this self-assessment process, to enhance the board's operational effectiveness. 4, the TSU Board of Trustees hereby directs the TSU administration to provide an annual scholarship plan to the board, and commencing the board's June 2023 meeting, present reports at the board's regular meeting pertaining to the number and value of all scholarships offered and the number of signed scholarship acceptance offers, notwithstanding the fact that a scholarship presentation was made at this current meeting, the March 2023 meeting. The TSU administration shall ensure that it provides a copy of the annual scholarship plan to the Tennessee Higher Education Commission for the academic years 2023 through 2024 and 2024 to 2025. 5, the TSU Board of Trustees directs the TSU management to provide housing application and enrollment application data to the board, commencing at the board's June 2023 meeting, and thereafter at its March, June, and September board meetings, notwithstanding the fact that an enrollment data report will be made at the March 2023 board meeting. TSU shall also provide a copy of said housing and enrollment application data to the Tennessee Higher Education Commission for the academic years 2023 to 24 and 2024 to 25, and to the State Building Commission upon request. 6, the TSU Board of Trustees directs the TSU management to provide enrollment classification data to the board, commencing at the board's June 2023 meeting and thereafter at its March, June, and September board meetings, notwithstanding the fact that an enrollment presentation was made at the March 2023 meeting. 7, the TSU Board of Trustees is committed to ensuring that TSU management has sufficient and appropriate personnel to operate TSU in a productive and efficient manner. And to that end, hereby directs President Glover to conduct a review of the personnel, including, but not limited to, organizational structure, performance, and staffing within units, and present a personnel action plan, which shall include a plan of action for filling all vacant and interim positions to the board at its June 2023 meeting. 8, the TSU Board of Trustees further directs President Glover to retain, in an expeditious manner, a Chief Operating Officer, a Director of Construction Management, or similar title position, and conduct an in-depth review of enrollment management operations. 9, the TSU Board of Trustees directs TSU management to present to the Finance and Budget Committee for its prior approval specified financial budget changes that exceed 10%, including scholarships, and directs TSU management to present to the board for its approval a policy consistent with this directive. 10, the TSU Board of Trustees, in concurrence with the Comptroller's report, should take all appropriate measures, including having its board special committee on housing work closely and expeditiously with TSU management to add at least 2 new resident halls to the university housing inventory. 11, the TSU Board of Trustees hereby directs the TSU management to provide for at least the next 2 fiscal years a report at each board meeting addressing the university's practices and responsiveness regarding student-related communications, including in the area of enrollment, housing, and financial aid. The last item, 12, the TSU Board of Trustees, through its respective board committees, shall monitor and review adherence to the directives and matters contained in this resolution, and directs TSU management to present a report at its quarterly meetings updating the board on TSU's adherence to the directives contained in the resolution and the report, I believe should have been on, and the Comptroller's report. Okay, so that, I think you can see from that resolution that I read, those items, we take very seriously the Comptroller's report, and we've taken steps to address that. The last two comments that I have, as far as my report is concerned, is that I believe that an individual's perception can become their own reality. So therefore, I'm asking President Glover that you and Ms. Sharp make sure that the firms that we have hired for public relations purposes, that they dwell into making sure that we are maximizing the resources as it relates to TV, media, et cetera, social media, to make sure that we get. The problem is that TSU is probably the city's best kept secret as to what we're doing. Now, the secret, I mean, the word gets out as to what people think we're not doing, but I think we need to take equally larger step to make sure that what we are doing does get out into the community and change some of those perceptions. The last comment, I want to thank Trustee Webberly for his comments during the committee meetings. Very insightful. I think I, as well as others around the table, learned from those comments. And at this point in time, do you have any comment that you'd like to make now?
Absolutely. I actually want to go on record, and I want to say that on behalf of the student body, I appreciate the extraneous work that was done here today. I'm not sure about you all, but I kind of have a slight headache, but it's one of those good headaches, right? And I want to say that, Dr. Glover, that we're fully behind you. We support you, and we are also praying for you amongst this time right now. And to the board, again, I can't express how much that I know for me personally that I appreciate the work that was done here today and the previous board meetings that I've been a part of just this past year. And so with that being said, that all us students want is to see the university continue to thrive and improve. And today just goes to show that our leadership is strongly determined to see that come into fruition. So that being said, again, I appreciate it. We appreciate it. That's all I have. So.
Well, I think if the indication of this gentleman's well-spoken comments is any indication of the product that we produce, we do an excellent job. And not just because of your positive comments, but because of your ability to express it. Okay, is there any additional business?
One additional comment, at risk of being redundant, and please forgive me, getting in the front of the communication issue with public relations, so we are controlling the messaging, or at least being more aggressive in the messaging. I would just like to underline that 3 or 4 times, and I apologize for the redundancy, but it is critical.
No, thank you very much for underlining that and for repeating it. And then also, which I want to make sure that I make a comment to thank Dr. Glover and the administration for working with us. I know that we have been a bit, they have been a bit worse, not that. I know that we have constantly been calling you, and because we take this very seriously, our reputation's out here, and you have never failed to come to our aid and give us the information that we need, and we do appreciate that. Thank you so much. And there's more to come. Okay, now, is there any additional business at this point? If there's no additional business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
I move that the meeting adjourns. I move the meeting adjourns. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, President Johnson, please call the roll.
Trustee Cole.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Kerbill.
Aye.
Trustee Andre Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Bill Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee McKenzie.
Aye.
Trustee Pinnick.
Aye.
Trustee Walker.
Here, one go. We'll leave him here. Okay, the motion has been approved, and we are so adjourned. Thank you so much. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.